So, hey Mustafa, lovely as always to catch up with you. Now, you're a former patient of mine. You've actually done an interview with Joe and David. You very kindly agreed to do that, but you've agreed to come back and do another interview with me. So, can you explain what you're going to go through with us today? What you're going to show me and the audience?
Thanks for having me again, Karl. Yeah, it's great to be on last time, and it's great to be on again. So today, what I want to talk about is my recovery story from CPPS, being a former patient of Karl's, and being back in my life now, and living life and loving life. So then to give some hope and some advice to other people still going through it. And also, I want to introduce a new tool that I've developed, which I found to help me, and I hope it can help some of you potentially. So that's what I want to talk about. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. And I was fascinated when I was working with you. You were already working on this tool. It was something you were using, as you said, to kind of help to monitor and gauge where you were in your recovery, how much you could, I'll use a phrase that we used with you, lean into activity, how much you needed to back away from activity. And for me, that is absolutely priceless. Something that I could wear on my wrist, and it can tell
Mm.
me now's a good day for you to do a little bit more, or at this moment you should probably back off. But not
Mm.
only that, but also you're going to take us through a particular technique that can help to change that. So if my readouts on my watches, or maybe now is not a good time, you've actually come up with something that we can chart and track on the watch that
Hmm.
helps change that reading as well. That's
Yeah, yeah.
priceless.
And there's much more than that, so I'm really excited to show it to everyone today and see what everyone thinks. But yeah, definitely, yeah.
Fantastic. So, Mustafa, you've got the ability to share your screen. So, I'm going to put you in the hot seat.
All
I
right,
might ask a couple of questions at a certain point, but all over to you, mate.
all right, let's do it. Okay. So yes, hello again. My name is Mustafa. I'm 26. I'm a PhD student, and as we mentioned today, I'm going to be talking to you about my road to recovery from CPPS, and I'm going to introduce this new tool that Karl and I have been talking about. So what I'm going to talk about today is my toolbox. So these are the things that I have done and the things that I do when I need to. Well, some of it I do every day, which I'll go through, and these consist of things in my physical toolbox, things related to food, and things related to my mental toolbox. I'll then touch on my understanding of chronic. Is that right? Chronic CPPS, chronic pelvic pain syndrome. Sorry, I threw this slide in just like 10 minutes ago.
That's
So I'll throw
fantastic.
in my understanding of chronic pelvic pain syndrome, and I'm also going to introduce Nurture, which is the free app that I've developed and released, which I hope can be of use to people watching today. So let's go to my toolbox. So this is the toolbox of things that I do to help my physical self, basically. The first thing on the list is yoga. I do that 2 to 3 times a week. These are the types of yoga practices that I do. So there's yin, which is basically where it's all about relaxing. So you hold a pose like a forward fold for like 5 minutes, and you'll go and hold another relaxing pose for 5 minutes. It's all about slowing things down and relaxing and not trying to do anything, but allowing the body to just stretch and relax and release all of that tension. And when I talk about this, I mean not only physical tension, but also emotional tension as well, and stress. Iyengar is a very important type of yoga practice. For anyone who hasn't done yoga or people who are doing yoga, I would really recommend looking into Iyengar. In Iyengar, what you basically learn is how to do yoga properly, how to do the poses properly. So you learn which muscles to contract and which ones to relax. A lot of people who get injured in yoga, they get injured because they're not doing the practice properly. I think it's very important in that, and it's also very important to learn how to use your body properly, because part of CPPS comes from dysfunctional movement patterns. For example, I used to do Olympic weightlifting, and I think in my squats I would get a lot of hip pain. So I'm not surprised that I've ended up with this issue with chronic hip tension. But now, through basically reprogramming in my body through yoga, I now go back to the gym once a week to do some Olympic weightlifting just for fun. But now the way I do it the way I squat is very different. Now in the squats I use my bum and my external hip rotators, instead of using my, hip flexors and that kind of stuff. So Iyengar is definitely a very good tool to have in your box. Jiva Mukti and Rocket, these are more basically active vinyasa, the bread and butter of your yoga practice. So that's the down dogs, the up dogs, the warriors. Jiva Mukti implements some spirituality, so there's some chanting, and that's quite nice. And Rocket is just really intense, so that's like a hard workout. Another thing I'm going to mention is trauma release exercises. I don't know if people are aware of this, but basically the example is when you see a deer running away from a lion, when it escapes, it will literally shake its whole body to release all of that tension that it's just gone through, the trauma it's just gone through of the stress of running for its life. And in our today and age, we live with chronic stress, and we don't do that shaking out stuff of, sighing and verbalizing and getting that tension, that physical and emotional tension out of our bodies. So trauma release exercises, especially, they focus on the hip, around the hip area, the pelvic floor, and that kind of stuff. That can be very powerful. I don't actually do TRE anymore because it's basically implemented in my yoga practice. Like in Yin, we will do trauma release exercises in Yin. So definitely look into that if you have not tried that. I'll also touch on the stretch and massage routine that Karl gave me. So that takes less than 5 minutes, and I would do it twice a day when needed. But these days I haven't found the need to. But if I am pushing my body and I do start to get some symptoms, to me that's a signal that I need to slow down. I'm pushing myself, and then I can throw in a few of these things, and they seem to help quite quickly. And I think I didn't mention this in the previous interview, but Karl's approach is I really commend it, because he looks at your symptoms and then he correlates your symptoms with the associated regions of your pelvic floor, which then would refer pain to result in the symptoms that you're having. And to my understanding, the routine he gives you is very bespoke, and is through targeting those specific regions, that only for 5 minutes, because you can do all kinds of stretching, but if you know the specific types of stretching and especially the massages as well that would benefit you, you can save a lot of time and effort. Another thing, as I mentioned before, is 5 minutes twice a day is not too much time to give. It makes it easier to make it into a habit, and the way to beat CPPS is through changing your habits. That's what gives you long-term benefits and long-term recovery, and it helps you stay recovered and helps you stay happy and healthy. I also swim once a week. This was recommended to me by a urologist, and I think it's great. Swimming is great. It's like meditative. You're breathing, you're flowing, but also I think it's really good at working your whole body and helping to release the tension in the pelvic floor. And that's something that's quite low impact that you can do. So you don't have to worry about walking or running or cycling or any of these kind of things. Swimming is definitely a really good thing to do. So I do that once a week for like a mile each time. I also do cold showers once a day. So for anyone who knows Wim Hof, you'll know what I'm talking about. Cold showers are a very powerful tool to have in your toolbox. I do it every day. Initially it was hard because cold showers are scary and uncomfortable, but actually I'll touch on this later, but through pranayama. So pranayama means breath control, controlling your breath. You can help your body to adapt to the cold, and actually then the cold isn't so bad, and you're fine with it, and it's not so much a problem anymore. And the after effects of it has on calming you down, reducing your anxiety, making you feel better, and also for your body. If you see athletes, they use a lot of cold therapy in their recovery. So in this regard of tension in the pelvic floor, cold therapy can be useful, I think. So this is a picture of me doing a headstand at home, and this is a picture of me a few weeks ago in Lisbon doing a headstand there. I just threw that in for fun because I thought it was cool. But yeah. So the next thing I want to touch on is things that I do in terms of food. So I think I remember Karl's wife partner being a nutritionist, and then he didn't need to advise me much on this, but I worked with an osteopath and he advised me to take this food intolerance test. So you pay £150 and you get this box that comes to your house, and you prick your finger and you send them your blood, and they basically test it against common foods. And it's probably too small for you, but on the top of my list in the red, there's cow's milk and egg white. So I already know that I'm lactose intolerant, and if I eat egg, I get flatulence and that kind of stuff. But when I was in the throes of my CPPS, and if I ate some ice cream, I would get, I'll get gassy and I'll get bloated, and my pain would get worse. So during those times when your symptoms are really bad, think about doing something like this and then cutting out those foods. I'm not saying you have to cut them out forever. I can eat all of this stuff now. It's fine. I still get flatulence, but it doesn't cause me pain and discomfort and that kind of stuff anymore. It doesn't worsen any pain because I don't have any pain anymore. And this also saves you the effort of doing an elimination diet, of trying to cut things out, because that's just tedious and effort. So, save yourself the effort, and I recommend doing this. And lastly, but not leastly, the mental aspect. So I do psychotherapy once a week. I've been doing therapy on and off the past few years. One thing that I found very useful is EMDR, eye movement desensitization reintegration therapy. And that basically works on processing traumas. And pain is a trauma, which I'll touch on more in a moment. But basically, traumatic memories is kind of a thing where your brain gets stuck in the past and you don't even know it's happening. And I think being stuck, chronic pain is a kind of trauma. Even the experience of going through CPPS is traumatic, I would say. And so I think EMDR is a very good tool for that. But I will touch more in a moment on specifically why EMDR is very good for a chronic pain condition such as CPPS. And that's what CPPS is. I think it is a chronic pain condition. Another thing is compassion-focused therapy. So this is to develop self-compassion. The point of this is that we don't realize how harsh we are to ourselves. We are inner critics. We say things to ourselves that we wouldn't say to our best friends, let alone our worst enemies. And if I'm in pain and I say to myself, I don't care about your pain, I don't care about myself, how do you think my body is going to respond to that? Whereas if I can be compassionate to myself, and it is a skill that you have to develop because a lot of us, we're not used to it, we're not raised that way. But actually, in being compassionate to your pain, it does help. It really does help. It helps in a lot of aspects of life too. I also play guitar and sing, so that's good just to relax and for catharsis and to express emotions and that kind of stuff. That's very important. I also do a lot of reading, and I read a lot of literature on CPPS and associated things, which I'll touch on the next slide, I think. I'll also touch on medication. So currently I'm on SSRIs, and that has helped. I think these are all parts of the puzzle. If you're falling off a cliff and you have a few ropes to grab onto, I think it's best to grab onto all the ropes. You don't know which rope is going to hold. Some of them might snap, some of them could hold, but there is no one panacea to your problems. It's all about the little details. It's all about how many tools can you get in your arsenal, and medication is just another one of those. For me, it really helped with my anxiety. And if you're anxious, if you're afraid and scared, your body is not going to go into healing mode. It's going to stay in that, I need to protect myself. I'm in threat mode, basically. So medication is a very important part of that. So with medication and psychotherapy, I would just add, I'm not a medical professional, so go and talk to a medical professional like your GP or a psychiatrist or something like that. So next is meditation and mindfulness, and I do this at least once a day. Something I learned recently was transcendental meditation. That's been quite nice and useful. Another important type of meditation is to develop self-compassion. So there is one I really like called Rain by Tara Brach. If you just type that into Google or YouTube, you'll find that, and that's a really nice way to develop self-compassion. And again, touching on self-compassion, in the same way that inner criticism and pain are patterns in our brain, self-compassion is another pattern in your brain. You just have to develop it and train it. And that's why mindfulness, you need to do it little and often, once a day, 5-10 minutes. And it's about keeping up with the practice where you really get the benefits. I've also delved in holotropic breathing and pranayama. So as I mentioned before, pranayama is just breath control. Holotropic breathing is something which basically releases DMT in your brain. It has like same effects as LSD, similar effects as LSD, and that can be quite useful for basically getting out of your mindset and even rewiring your brain a bit, basically. This is the real big one here: EMDR pain relief through bilateral stimulation. So basically, what this is it's an audio file that you listen to. You have 2 headphones in, and then you hear a bell that plays in each headphone whilst this psychologist talks and nice music plays. And you do this whilst in a relaxing position like Happy Baby or something like that. And then what you're instructed to do is to focus on your pain. So you'll focus on the pain in your pelvic floor, in your groin area. And then you just pay attention to the alternating bells. and your pain just dissolves. It's absolutely magic. It's absolutely magic. And this is where I'm saying eye movement desensitization reintegration therapy ties in with pain relief. Yeah, I'll touch more on that on the next slide. Okay, so what's my take on CPPS? I believe it's an expression of stress that is beyond what your mind body can handle. And notice here I put mind body as one word. The mind and body, they are not separate things. The way you think affects the way you feel. The way you feel always affects you think. They're very interconnected. And this ties in with the biopsychosocial model, which you've probably heard of if you've worked with Karl before. And so just to go over it again, bio here stands for biological, so that's the physical pathology. Is my prostate inflamed? You know, that kind of stuff. Is there an infection? The psychological here is, am I going to be able to work again? I'm not coping with this. I can't do this. This is awful. I can't handle this. The social is things like, I need to work a job to earn money. How am I going? What about my commitments to my partner? How can I hang out and have fun with my friends? How can I go out and do normal things like, go and sit in the cinema or take a train or go on a plane when I need to use the bathroom every 5 minutes, So this is some of the literature that I would suggest, or that I recommend. The first one is Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain by Mark Grant. He's a psychologist in Australia, and this is where the EMDR pain relief stuff came from. And the audio that I mentioned is a part of this book, which you're meant to buy, but I'm happy to share this. So just email me or Karl, and we will share it with you, because that's a really powerful tool for, especially when you're in the throes of acute pain and you're really struggling. It's something that can really help you. But yeah, for more information on how that works, just go to this book. Another really important book is When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate. He's a psychiatrist in Canada. And this is basically where the theory of, stress has to go somewhere. We can't just bottle up our stress and act like it doesn't affect us. It's going to come out in a certain way. For some people, that's autoimmune diseases. For some people, that's chronic pelvic pain syndrome. For some people, that's cancer, whatever it is. Stress kills. Like, we know that stress is very, very harmful for us. Chronic stress especially. The final book I'll throw on here is Pelvic Pain, The Ultimate Cock Block. And I think Karl has thrown this around, but it's something that he recommended to me, and I really, really like this book. And it goes through, it has like a lot of the latest pain science in it, which really helps you to reframe how you view pelvic pain, and very useful. If you have not read that already, I recommend so. So what do I believe the key is to healing from chronic pelvic pain syndrome? Well, I believe that the body is capable of healing itself. You just have to let it. We need to get out of this chronic fight, flight, or freeze mode, and we need to spend more time in rest and digest. We need to spend less time running away from lions. We may not be physically doing that, but our bodies and our minds believe that we are, and that's part of the problem. Living in the chronic stress that we do in today's society. And I'll just touch on how this works. This is the autonomic nervous system. On the left, you have the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight, flight. And on the right is your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest. And it's like a seesaw. So they're basically always fighting against each other. And what I'm suggesting is that for people with, people like us with chronic pelvic pain syndrome and that kind of stuff, we've accumulated so much stress, and we're stuck in this chronic stress. So we're always in fight, flight. We're always under threat. We're always anxious. What about that next meeting? What about that next bill? All of that kind of stuff, anxiety and depression, all of that kind of stuff. And then what happens is that our body gets damaged by that, and then we have pain and inflammation, and our body can't heal because it's always in threat mode, basically. So say if you are a deer running away from a lion, you know this, like animals will literally excavate their bowels to lose weight. Literally at that moment your brain is like, okay, nothing else matters apart from survival. So then it won't think about this. Now is not the time to heal. So if you're in pain and with inflammation, now it's not the time to deal with that. So that's the objective, really, is to get more into the rest and digest mode. So what if I told you that there was a way? I think for someone with chronic pelvic pain syndrome, I think it's fair to say your HP bar is running pretty low. But what if there was a way to heal, to increase your HP bar? Well, this is where this app that I've developed comes in. It's called Nurture, and currently it's only on the Apple Watch, but I do intend to bring it to other platforms in the future. That's the plan. So this is what the landing page looks like, but I'll run through it in a moment. I need to give you some background first on how it works. So this is the splash screen, which just has some information. Don't worry about all the words. I'm going to run you through the 2 lines. So if you see the red line, that represents someone's heart rate who is stressed and anxious. The heart is all over the place. So you'll notice when someone is anxious, their breathing is very irregular, and their heart will also be very irregular. Whereas if someone breathes in a very calm way, in a regular way, their heart rate, then their heart rhythm also becomes regular. And then you can see that with the purple line, where it becomes like a sinusoidal wave. And you can measure this with something called heart rate variability. And basically, the more your heart looks like the purple line, the higher your heart rate variability is. And that is associated with well-being, relaxation, sleep, healing, recovery, better cognition. Whereas if you're anxious, stressed, panicking, in pain, you know, I was there, you know, I was unable to sleep, eat, drink. It was awful. And I was the red line, you know, for many months. You will have a lower value of heart rate variability. And as Karl mentioned, this is something that I looked at on my own data over time to see how it was changing. And so yeah, lower heart rate variability is associated with depression, anxiety, chronic health issues, stress, fatigue, and exhaustion. And here's another graph to show you how heart rate variability works. So the top graph shows someone's breathing, the middle graph shows their heart rate, and the bottom graph shows their blood pressure. And what you find is that when someone breathes in a calm and rhythmic way, their heart comes into coherence with that rhythm, and so does their blood pressure. And you can see on the right hand side of this graph that all the curves come into alignment and they follow each other. So when you inhale, your heart rate increases, when you exhale, your heart rate decreases, and so forth. And typical heart rate variability values is measured in milliseconds. They depend on age, and this is a graph showing this, but you can find this online. And I think this is included in the app as well when you download it on the iPhone app. And basically, so I'm 26, so I'm looking to be around between 50 and 100 milliseconds. So what that means is that if I'm going below 50 milliseconds, it means that my body is stressed, you know, and it's a sign for me to take things easy. Whereas if you know, my heart rate variability is high, it's a measure that I am very relaxed. Essentially, heart rate variability is a measure of how relaxed you are. It's a measure of parasympathetic nervous system activity. And it's very useful because you know, the latest smart watches such as the Apple Watch and the other ones, they all measure heart rate variability, and that's how this app has come about. So let me just run you through the landing page for the app. So the first number at the top is your latest HRV measurement. It shows you when that was taken. So here you can see I was 157 milliseconds, which is above what I would expect to be. Like 100 is really, you know, already a good value. So I'm already quite relaxed. You can also see my range, where it goes from 33 to 183 milliseconds. So it does vary over the day. That's perfectly normal. And then here you can see the modes. There's relax mode and sleep mode. So relax mode is basically, you can use it if you're doing some stretches, like say if you're doing the stretches that Karl gives you, like happy baby or legs up the wall, or if you're doing like yin yoga, if you're just holding like a forward fold or some stretches for a long time, or if you're doing shavasana at the end of a yoga session, like when you just basically lie down and relax, you can do it then too. Or if you're wherever you want, when you're sitting on the sofa, when you're sitting on the tube, when you're reading a book, wherever you want really. The second mode is sleep mode. And that basically cues you to breathe a bit slower, and that's really useful for sleep. And I struggled a lot with sleep in general as an insomniac, and I think the sleep mode has been very useful for me. What it does is it terminates after 1 hour, and it guides you to breathe in a slow way. And the whole point of this app is that it's something called biofeedback. So it's not just that it's going to vibrate for an hour and that's it. No. What it's going to do is it's going to watch your heart. And once your heart rate slows down enough, that means that you are relaxed enough. It will stop vibrating, and it leaves you to relax and allow your body to breathe itself. So this screenshot on the right shows what the session looks like. So the white number is your current heart rate. The green number is your target heart rate, where you're trying to get to, and you can adjust that by using the watch. And the blue number on the right shows your resting heart rate. In the sleep mode, it also shows your sleep heart rate, which is a bit lower. So I think my sleep rate is like sleep heart rate is like 48 beats per minute. And at the bottom, you can see the breath pacer, so what it's telling you to do is to breathe through your nose with the breath pacer. And it also vibrates too. So enough chit chat, let's go to a demonstration video. So this is me doing a squat on the wall. And here you can see I open Nurture, and that's my current heart rate variability from like half an hour ago, 176 milliseconds. So I'm going to launch relax mode. And then it's going to calibrate, it's going to read my heart rate. And here, what I do is I set my target heart rate to 63 beats per minute. And you can see my current heart rate is 66. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to breathe with the breath pacer through my nose, and then we can watch to see what happens to my heart rate. So also it has an always on display, so when the screen basically dims, you can still see all the information. So here you can see the up arrows and the down arrows to visually guide your breathing. And there you see I get my heart rate below 63 and it says good job, let the breath breathe you. It stops buzzing and that's it. Then I can choose to end the session and save it if it's like a yoga workout, or I can choose to discard it, which I did in that instance, which then doesn't write any data if you just want to mess around with it. And here is another video showing me on the tube, and this is basically how to trigger a heart rate variability measurement. So the Apple Watch does this periodically during the day in moments of stillness, but to do one manually, the only way to do it is through using the Breathe app in the mindfulness app on the Apple Watch. And this is me showing you me doing it on the tube. I think it was yesterday morning. So you need to breathe with this breath pacer for a minute, and then it says, well done, good job. And then you can go back on Nurture, and you see your updates, your heart rate variability. So there I got 105. So you know in that minute what your heart rate variability was. And that's a very useful tool because it's basically a biofeedback where you can train yourself to relax and you can watch that number. And if you can, over time, over time you will get better at relaxing and scoring higher on that, basically. Yeah, so things to do. I need to, these are the things on my to-do list for Nurture, like what I need to do to improve it going forward. Dynamic biofeedback. So currently you have to manually set the target heart rate, but I'd like it to adjust. So if you're struggling, I'd like it to increase the target to, so then you don't have to do it manually, and to basically make it more of a dynamic and a better user experience. Another very important thing is to work on releasing this on Fitbit and Android watches, because not everyone has an Apple Watch. And the other thing is to do more with the HRV data, and I think Karl was touching on this. It's about looking at your heart rate variability data and then knowing, okay, is today a day to go hard? Should I train hard at the gym, or should I not go to the gym? Should I take a rest day? But also then to give you more input on your data and to be like, good job here, and to let you track how you're doing over time within from the data that Nurture is gathering itself, not just from the data gathered by the Apple Watch. And also to implement your feedback and any requests that you may have. So that's it. I thank you for listening, and I'll take any questions, but I guess we're not live. But yeah, thank you. And my Twitter is AI_nurture, or I, and you can also email me at i.nurture.mustafa@gmail.com. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Mustafa. I'm really, really excited. When I first heard about this, I think it was on our first or second session, I literally put pause on you. I was being incredibly selfish. I was like, I want to know what this is.
I want this.
Yeah. What's going on? How do we get this? How do we get more of this into people's lives? How is it making a difference for you? Because this is potentially like life-changing for so many people. You've proved it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This was something that you worked on, you feel desperately passionate about, and for all the right reasons, you're making a lot of the right noise at the moment. So this is superb. Can I go back and just reflect on a few things that you've said? Maybe not necessarily ask some questions, but just, again, signpost some fantastic work you've been doing.
Sure, yeah, sure.
So kudos to you, mate. Right, I get the easy job. You're the one who has to put in all the hard work. You have to do the changes. You have to do the movements, the exercises, the changes to the diet. You've mentioned there. So a couple of shout outs here. You do yin. We have a former patient of mine who's now recovered. We're going to do a webinar on yin yoga. This is a live demonstration of yin yoga. And the aim here is that we're going to start running yin yoga classes towards the end of the year online, if not before. I'm a big fan of Jivamukti. I practice Jivamukti every single week, not pelvic pain, but I love the whole ethos behind it. I love the chanting, I love the prayer, I love the movement. For me, it works exceptionally well for me. Not for everyone, it is hard work. So the yin or the iyengar is fantastic. We're doing a webinar on the 22nd of April as well, aren't we, Mustafa? And
Yep,
you're going to be
yep.
part of that panel. So we're really, really, really looking forward to having you part of that. It is absolutely spot on. It's time to look beyond just the pelvis for the answers to recovery. When we have this circular model of mind and body, when we appreciate that it is an integrated model, you're not just your head, you're not just your pelvis, but when we work with both, we have so many more opportunities for success. And yeah, it is mentally exhausting. It's emotionally exhausting to go through these things. So we're not saying it's all in your head. We're not saying it's purely psychological. But what we're saying is that when you work with the body holistically, you increase your chances of recovery. And you are walking and talking and living proof of this thing very, very happening. I love your opening slide with you on standing by your bike, because that's massively who you are. So yeah, good to see you're back and doing those things, mate. So yeah, Nurture, the app. Remind me, where can I get it again?
It's on the App Store. You have to type in Nurture, because there's a bunch of pregnancy apps, so you might have to scroll down a bit. But if you go on the Apple Watch and you look for it on the Apple Watch store, you can find it straight away. But on the iPhone App Store, just type in Nurture and you can find it. But you might have to scroll down a bit, but it's on there. Yeah.
So that's Nurture. Nurture.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Nurture. That's it.
So you know what? I love the fact you were doing this on the tube. I love the fact that you can take this. I mean, your watch is on your wrist, right? It goes with you wherever you wear your watch. So there's no reason why you can't be. The tube is not always the most relaxing of environments.
A lot of people meditate on the tube. You'd be surprised. I'm one of them.
Why not? It's dead time. Use it to your advantage. Take advantage of that. It's not the most exciting. I mean, thankfully at the moment, we're April 2022 doing this presentation. Tubes are a lot quieter, but use it to your advantage. Check in with your Nurture app. Follow your breathing. Calm things down. Check your heart rate variability. Give your body the best possible chance it can for calming things down and creating the right environment for recovery there as well, Mustafa. Bang on. So the feedback is instant as well, isn't it? You don't have to wait for a report to come back. It's live as you're doing that breathing technique. Yeah.
So it lets you know how you're doing. So if you're failing, if your heart rate is too fast, so you're anxious and stressed, all it does is it vibrates once every 6 seconds or once every 8 seconds, depending on whether you're in the relax mode or the sleep mode. And by the way, the relax mode, it used to be called yin mode. But then my girlfriend was like, no, not everyone knows what yin is. But I'm glad to know that some people do. But it's perfect. It's perfect for yin. It's perfect for something like yin. You can use it for the whole thing. But the point is that, so what it will do is if your heart rate is too fast, it will vibrate once every 6 seconds. And all you have to do is follow the vibrations. Your heart rate will slow down and it will give you a success vibration, which is just says like, good job, well done. Different kind of vibration. And then it stops vibrating. And from there, you don't need to control the breath. You don't need to control the breath. You just relax. You sink deeper into relaxation and calmness. It's great.
Trust the body, right? The body knows where it wants to be. We just need to guide it and nudge it in the right direction. Yeah. And that instant feedback, that instant gratification of, I've made a change. Like I've actually made a change in my body. I've increased its healing potential there is absolutely priceless. Like I said, that's why I got so excited. That's why I wanted you to come and do this for me. So self-efficacy, again, you're not having to rely on anyone else. You're not having to ask someone else, how's my heart rate? It's right there. You can do it wherever you are. And by getting to do it regularly, then you get to learn about your own body, don't you? You get to recognize your own patterns. Maybe you get to feel like, maybe I can feel my heart rate's a bit higher. Maybe I'm getting some other physical symptoms as well. Sweaty palms. Maybe I'm feeling a bit clammy. So knowing that is right there in your pocket or on your wrist, you can make a difference right there and then. It's priceless.
And the first step is awareness. So once you develop that awareness and it trains you in control, it's literally a game. So you're literally playing a game and you get better at the game. And you're basically learning how to relax and you're getting better at relaxing. And the benefits of that are huge for anyone.
Yeah, exponentially. It's a win-win-win all the way through. I like the fact as well that the more you collect the data. Now, I'm not aware of this entirely. So the more data that you have on your Apple Watch and other platforms soon to be, then the more that becomes bespoke to you. Is that right? Did I get that?
I think that's something where I could take it. So there are a lot of other players in this area who do this with like basically high-end athletes, like Olympians and stuff use it, and that is something that I can look into implementing. But yes, that is the case. Yeah, that it looks at your data, and then based on your data, your specific data, it basically gives you a gauge to say, okay, your body is although you may not feel it. Sometimes for me, I can feel it. Like when I have a low heart rate variability, I'm like, yeah, of course I have it. You know, I'll feel like crap. And I'll look at my watch and be like, oh, my heart rate variability is like quite low. I'm like, of course it is. Yeah, I'm feeling crap. So, and then all you need to do in that moment is say, okay, let me just be kind to myself and take it easy. I don't need to push myself. Now's not the time to push myself. You know. So yeah.
You know what I like about this is it gives you permission. It's a permission slip to say, hey, you know what? Take your foot off the gas. Be nice to yourself. Don't push yourself this time. You know, it's important if you want to heal yourself and nurture yourself in recovery, then this can be absolutely pivotal. This can be the cornerstone of your recovery. So Mustafa, once again, thank you so much. I'm so excited for you. Go to on your Apple Watch, go to the App Store, look at Nurture, N-U-R-T-U-R-E. If you're on your phone, then you might need to, once you've typed
scroll down a bit,
scroll down a little bit, but it's there,
all
right?
the pregnancy apps. Yeah.
And you've got the logo there as well, haven't you? I think that's on the top right corner of your screen.
Yeah.
That's the symbol you're looking for.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me again, Karl. Yeah, thank you.
Most welcome. Any final words? Any final pearls of wisdom for us?
It is possible to recover, and I think, as I've said this before, Karl's evidence of that. I'm evidence of that. There are so many people who are evidence of that. Like, yeah, it is possible.
Absolutely.
Believe.
Don't give up. Yeah, believe. Don't give up. Get nurture in your life.
Yeah.
Thanks once again, Mustafa. Stay well, mate.
Thank you. And you. Thank you.